Hey guys, welcome to a little bit of woo woo. I'm your host, Jill Thomas. Wow, January is off to a weird start. First of all, thanks so much for all the support. I really appreciated the kind words in the comments and really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for that. So, I wanted to also, I really wanted to shout out for the person who said, because I had complained about StreamYard had doubled the price of my recording software or recording program. Shout out to the person who said, hey, if you just try to cancel it, they'll give you the old price, which is exactly what happened, guys. Back to the old price, about half what I was paying or what they told me my renewal was going to be. So, anyway, I want to also start off by saying, mad respect to Kamala Harris for what she did, certifying the election. I'll be honest with you, I would have been a lot more childish about it. I probably would have called in sick that day, but she went and did it. And she had people clapping for her when she lost. And that was, people were clapping at the whole situation. I would have been really, really uncomfortable. So if it were me, I'm glad she did it. I'm proud of her. I'm really impressed. Mad respect. I'm also really impressed when Mike Pence did the same situation 4 years earlier under even more crazy circumstances. So I want to give respect where respect is due. Interesting stuff going on. So some of what I'm going to say today is going to fall into the category of you just don't need a psychic to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So welcome. Thanks you're here. So let's talk about it. First of all, we are not going to start a war with the Commonwealth and try to take over Canada. We are also not going to try to take over Greenland. I think that's all the ones on my list. Oh, there is, though, a non-zero chance that the Gulf of Mexico could get renamed to the Gulf of America. I will say that one, that actually there is a non-zero chance of that. Panama Canal, I also don't think that's going to happen. What I really want to talk about here is campaign promises. Let's just have an adult conversation about campaign promises. These are all campaign promises, right? Even though the campaign is over, campaign promises. Now, you guys are old enough to have seen a few elections, and you're old enough to have heard a few campaign promises over the years. And you're probably, if you're being honest, you're probably old enough to admit that almost none of the campaign promises you have seen over the years have come true. I can only think of one, and I'm not 100% sure this was even a campaign promise, but I can think of like a Clinton era promise about allowing gays to be in the military, and the compromise was the don't ask, don't tell thing, which turned out to be really bad. That's the only thing I can think about, and I'm not 100% sure that turning over the abortion choices over to the state was a campaign promise. If it was, then I'll have to give Trump on that one. But I bet between the 2,000 people that are on this channel, we could probably only come up with 5 that actually happen. My point is, guys, the things that you're scared about are just not likely to happen. Washington is just as dysfunctional under a Trump presidency as it would have been under Harris, as it was under Biden, as it has been under Obama. All of those things are still true. The president just doesn't have as much power as we think. Now, granted, there's things that we're going to see on TV that are going to make us very uncomfortable, and certainly some things have happened that I'm not happy about. But I will tell you, in general, the stuff that's keeping you up at night is not something you need to worry about. There's just too many guardrails, and frankly, you're dealing with bureaucracy. I mean, you guys have been to the DMV. You know what it's like. Try to get something done. Now, one thing I want to give 45 some credit on this one. One thing that happens is every once in a while, he comes up with, a tweet of something he says he's going to do. And I have to immediately Google it and say, is that even legal, or is that even possible? Interestingly enough, I've learned about how the government works by these kinds of situations, just like last time he was president. The other thing I really want to talk about is, a lot of people who do what I do were saying on January 6th, there was going to be a lot of protests, and there was going to be it wasn't going to go as smoothly as it ended up going. I didn't say that. I'm not going to crow too loud on that one, because just because I didn't say it doesn't mean I wasn't thinking it. But I will say that I was shown that there had been some plans. So when you were seeing other people saying this, they weren't wrong. It's just that the other side kind of got wind of it and took these people out to the woodshed and had an adult conversation with them about, maybe there was some compromise, or maybe there was some dirt on some of these people that they were like, do you really want that to come out? I'm not saying that happened. But we kind of know how this game is played, and I think that there had been some plans to protest their certification that just didn't come to fruition because it was kind of known in advance, and there was some adult conversation. So just don't when you see other psychic readers doing predictions like that, I don't think they were wrong. I just don't think I think that something changed. That's all I'm gonna say on this. The other thing that falls in the category of you don't need a psychic to tell you, first of all, entertainment purposes only. When it comes to the stock and bond market, you shouldn't listen to me at all because psychics have a hard time with timing. And I'm giving you information that if I say it now, I can't tell you exactly when. Having said that, I will say I do see a couple of big corrections coming. I could even be before the end of the month. It feels like something extraneous outside, something unexpected comes in and causes a correction in the stock market. Part of this is that hopium, though, with the Trump trade that he is going to make change, he's going to get stuff done. And you guys, if you think about it, if you're really being honest, you already know that doesn't really happen so much in Washington. And take a second, by the way, take a second to think about, wouldn't Puerto Rico like to be the 51st state, not Canada? Wouldn't the District of Columbia like to be the very 51st state? I mean, those are two things that actually really could happen. But to say that Canada is going to be the 51st state, we all know that's not happening. Okay. So don't think that anybody thinks that. Okay. What I was saying though, with the bond and the bond market in the last couple of weeks, gosh, if you have a bond position, I'm sure you already are feeling uncomfortable. Don't listen to me, but I would say you probably don't need to exit that position right now unless you feel like you need to, because I just think there's so much chaos happening that more is coming, and it's going to be up and down for a while, particularly in the bonds, but absolutely in the stock market, particularly for certain stocks like Nvidia. I know most of you guys watching don't play the stock market, but it is kind of interesting to watch all of this up and down and to understand that part of the reason the economy is in such good shape is because so many people who buy stuff made a lot of money in the stock market in the last couple of years, and there's this perception of wealth, and some of that wealth, as they sell a few shares, allows them to go and buy things in the marketplace, which has been sort of propped it up a little bit. When the stock market stops going to the moon, that some of that will reverse. I've had a lot of people asking me about buying cars. I know I mentioned this one in the last video. I'm going to talk about it again. I just don't think, I know there was another toilet tweet this morning about tariffs, which was another one that made me Google, can he really do that? But I still don't see a lot of inflation in products. I mean, I do see some spot inflation on some products, and you guys will get intuitive hits. If you're watching this, you're already pretty intuitive. You'll get some information. Maybe I should buy a couple extra of a certain thing. But I think for the most part, it's not going to be, I'm just not seeing a lot of inflation. And I'm just not seeing where you need to rush out and buy a car because you think it's going to be 20% more next month. By the way, guys, there's a lot of 2023s still on lots at dealerships, and they would love to get rid of it, especially Stellantis. I'm just saying. What am I saying? Oh, I was definitely seeing like two corrections coming. One feels like it could be January, but another one I definitely feel like March, April-ish. Something is going to happen within that time frame that's going to cause the market to get a little panicked, is what I'm feeling. I'm not saying exit your position. I'm saying you shouldn't listen to me. But I'm just saying don't be terribly surprised if that shows up. The other thing I'm going to say too, the last thing I want to say on politics, it's probably not the last thing. I've got a long list here, is that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. A lot going on behind the scenes that we are not going to know about. I was actually being shown, one of my guys has a real sense of humor, and he was showing me that in like 10 or 15 years, there would be some HBO special on kind of some of the stuff that's going on behind closed doors right now, and that we would hear about it later. But as far as knowing right now, it's tough because in the moment, people are uncomfortable, and they're uncomfortable with the unpredictability of the person moving into that presidential position. I understand that, but I would also just say, just not a lot he's going to be able to do. Not a lot of that he's going to be able to do. It's even more dysfunctional than it was before. Not even more dysfunctional than before. Now, the other thing, though, when it comes to campaign promises. Now, if your governor said it, if your governor made a campaign promise, I feel like there's a lot more weight there because I think the governors have more of an ability to get stuff done than the person in the executive suite. I would say if your governor made a campaign promise that makes you uncomfortable, that one could happen. But in terms of the president, I'm just not seeing a lot of that stuff getting done. I'm also seeing that there is more to this story. We're going to see another chapter of this book, maybe even the final, not the final chapter, but we're going to see more to this story probably closer to the end of the month, right around the 20th at Inauguration Day. I have always said that I still have not had a good image of that inauguration happening. I don't know if there's a delay or if it's just a blind spot for me, because that's not something I personally want. And I do have a strong opinion on that issue, and it has become a blind spot, but I'm just not seeing it. I do feel like there's going to be another scandal type thing, a lot of denying, a lot of, no, that's not really what happened. No, I don't know anything about that. But at the end, I don't think it's going to change the outcome. And I'm sorry if that's not what you want to hear, but I just don't see that changing the outcome. But I also do see that fear that you're experiencing is making people a little more vulnerable. News loves to trade in fear. They love to make you scared because scared people are a little more easily controlled, right? If you're afraid, it's easier to push through a law that might take away some of your rights because you're afraid and you think, oh, well, I have to do something. Fear, a lot of times, and worry is really your unconscious mind feeling like it's doing something about a situation it doesn't feel like it can do anything about. It just doesn't change anything. I would suggest using that fear energy to do a workout, do some meditation, or even, oh my gosh, even better, start a business. I love people starting a business, creating a new economic stream, revenue stream for yourself and for your family, using that energy you would normally have used for being afraid. So setting those things aside, okay? Will there be more explodey, blowy, uppy type things? Yes. You're going to be watching them on TV. It's not going to happen to you. Use your own intuition. You are wise beyond anything that you can imagine. And if you listen to yourself, you'll know when maybe you need to take different steps or different actions. And these things are really rare. And they also only involve just a very few people. I mentioned last time how much I don't love these like hopes and prayers, thoughts and prayers speeches. I don't see as many of those coming from the president, the incoming 45. Actually, I guess it's 47 now. But I think it'll be more like less, hopes and prayers, thoughts and prayers, and more build a bigger wall kind of thing. It might be more like that, which frankly is more entertaining. I got to tell you. The other thing I wanted to talk about, these fires that are going on in Southern California. It's really sad, you guys. I was watching this on TV, and I know for everybody always gives, California a hard time. The fires where they are right now, Malibu and Pacific Palisades, these are some of the most beautiful places in Southern California. This is not the armpit of LA. These are absolutely gorgeous places, lots of wealth. And it is really sad. And I'm sorry to say this. I do feel like there will be more of those types of things. I do see some massive insurance reform, kind of like what happened. Those of you who are from Southern California remember during the Northridge earthquake, the entire earthquake insurance industry got changed as a result of insurance companies basically saying, we're going to leave California if you don't do something about this. I feel like there's going to be something happening like that. It doesn't feel just like California. It feels like California, Texas, and Florida. That's probably already in the works, but there is going to be some reform happening because these insurance companies are really threatening to pull out completely out of the state. I mean, several already have, but if you already have one of those policies, it's probably going to be renewable. Spare a thought for those people that I know we always say, oh, they're rich, they can afford it. Nobody wants to lose their whole house. That's just a sad, sad situation. So I'm really sorry. And gosh, something like, as of this morning, I think it's something like 50,000 people are on evacuation. It's probably more than that at the time of this recording. I'm recording this on January 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So that's pretty sad. And the other thing I wanted to talk about on this, actually one more thing on the fires. Oh my gosh, did you guys see those videos of CAL FIRE actually using trucks to push out cars? There was a bunch of cars parked on Sunset Boulevard where the fire had exploded near them. And so people like got out of their cars and ran because they didn't want to have an unaliving incident like that happened in Hawaii when people had stayed in their cars. Well, CAL FIRE needed those cars out of the way because they couldn't get fire trucks up to the houses. So they started bulldozing them out of the road. Okay, so I used to be an insurance agent in the state of California, and unless things have changed in 20 years, that would not be covered under your insurance policy. It is considered an active civil authority, which is specifically excluded. So those people with those $100,000 Teslas that were pushed out of the way, that Audi gorgeous car, pushed out of the way, probably totaled, let's be honest. Those people are going to have to pay for all those repairs themselves, unless something's changed. And please put in the comments if I'm wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong on this one, but I never saw somebody file a claim like this, so I never actually saw it denied. But it was specifically mentioned that it was excluded if the government destroys your vehicle on their own authority. It's not covered by insurance policy, or at least it wasn't when I was an insurance agent. But I might be wrong, so do look at your policy, and I hope I am wrong. Anyway, the last thing I want to talk about is awakenings, because a lot of clients are coming in for readings right now and talking about having awakening experiences. They're not sure. They're seeing people without bodies. A lot of people are seeing shadow beings, shadows, like shadow, dark. Somebody was describing it as almost like the Grim Reaper, and really freaked out. I mean, if I saw that, I have seen that, but if I didn't know what it was, I would be really freaked out, just like they are. There's nothing to be afraid of here. That's just someone's shadow self. 9 times out of 10, when you're seeing it, you're not actually seeing your own. You're seeing somebody else's. It's not something to be afraid of. Don't go give it a hug or anything. But you each have the shadow part of your own self, which holds on to your traumas, your upsets. And if somebody has used illegal products, I'm just going to call them that, or has abused alcohol or other illicit substances, their shadow self is holding on to more of those darker types of things, and it's more clear. When you're seeing it around someone, don't take it to mean something bad about them. I would take a pause, though. If you're dating someone who's got, and you're seeing that a lot, it actually more is a reflection of you and your own awakening and your abilities growing. If you're watching this, you're interested in that stuff already, your abilities are growing. You're also going to see some of the awakening symptoms can be like little dizzy spells. I'm not saying don't go see a doctor. If you feel like you need to go see a doctor, go see a doctor. Okay. I'm, not giving you medical advice, and please take this all with a grain of salt. Don't listen to me. But that can be something that can happen. It almost feels a little bit like a touch of vertigo for a second. Lots of vivid dreams, sleeping too late, not getting a lot of sleep at all, seeing things, kind of hearing things that aren't really there temporarily. Just, it may be a sign that you could benefit from taking a class. I always encourage people to take channeling classes because I think learning how to channel is really helpful. And getting advice from other people who are going through the same thing could be really, really beneficial. But I do see a lot more people having these awakening experiences. It could even have to do with kind of some of these solar flares that we're being hit with, but nothing to be afraid of, although it can be very scary. If you don't know what to expect, though, you may expect an awakening experience to look a certain way, and it doesn't in your case. It is what it is, but allow yourself to go through that process and just know that as time goes on, you're going to start to get more and more information, some of which you're really going to be bothered by. But it is part of the life process. It's learning what's going on. And I would encourage you also within your communities to embrace people who are different than yourselves. This polarization that we're seeing on the news, this putting people on sides, that's not a natural human thing. We do want to work together. We do want to be friends, and allow for yourself to be a stable part of the community, because there may be times, especially with more weather events coming, which I've already said I'm predicting more of that coming this year. You're going to be needing those neighbors, and you're going to be needing the kindness and the support of the people within your community. And most people will help you, no matter what kind of sign you had in your yard. And just understand that the things that you're most afraid of just aren't really going to happen. Your soul wants to play, so maybe it's time to go play. Okay, set aside some of this worry, set aside some of the watching of the news. Just don't. Just don't. And instead go for a hike, play with your cats and your dogs, find some fun in the world and start to enjoy more of that, because when you're tapping into fun, you're actually much more likely to get your creative juices going. So I hope that was helpful. I appreciate your support. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. Bye-bye.